All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of the Here I Am podcast. I am Anjay, also known as a dork who lifts on the TikToks and the Instagrams. And, I am here with a very special guest, my first guest. So that's also super exciting. The Mr. Joel Relampagos, who is probably one of the most amazing humans that I have ever met. And in the short time that I have known him, he has definitely impacted and changed my life with the wonderful things that he is doing in this world. So, hi, Joel.
How's it going, Anjay? Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
No, the honor is all mine, my dude. Seriously, I cannot thank you enough. First thing I want to do is I want to brag about you a little bit. Not only are you like a very successful producer in Hollywood, but you also created this amazing mental health company called Change Your Algorithm. And since Mr. Andres Ramacho, shout out, buddy, said like came to me and went, "Hey, dude, I work with this company. Do you mind like making a video for them?" I went, "Yeah, wait, what is it?" And because he's like a buddy of mine, I'm like, "Oh, you're asking me to do a favor? Yeah, dude, I got you." And then he told me more about it. I went, first off, yes. Second off, I need to participate because Lord knows my mental health needs it right now. And yeah, I just wanted to ask you what made you decide to go down that route and start this company?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago was when I was at the peak of my struggles with my mental health. And despite having success in my career in television, producing shows, big shows at that, no one knew that I was living this duplicitous life where I was going through depression, where I was struggling with anxiety and even dealing with suicidal ideations. And I really felt alone. It got to the point where I was drinking massive amounts of alcohol by myself, not even like the cute social drinking thing, but literally coming home with bottles of wine and just chugging it. And finally, after years of doing this, as I mentioned 2.5 years ago, I was like, I need help. And so I asked my family for help. And I'm Filipino American. That's a very non-Filipino thing to do, is to, show your emotions and ask your dad for help or whatnot. And I did. And I got help in a really big way. I went to rehab, which I was terrified at first. But eventually I absolutely fell in love with it, because all rehab was me waking up in the morning and taking these classes that were led by mental health professionals. And not only did that help me with my addiction and help me recover, but it also made me realize, like, where is this for people that don't have an addiction? Where is this for just anxiety and depression? And so by the time I left rehab, I made it my mission to start a free mental wellness company, because truthfully, I spent about $70,000 in rehab. And I was like, I don't think people need to spend or should have to spend that much money just to save their own life. And that was really what I was trying to do. I was trying to save my own life. I just didn't know how to do it. And that's how Change Our Algorithm started.
Well, that's amazing. And I totally get it, especially like even for people who just want to go to seek therapy, it's just crazy expensive, even though there are programs and there are therapists who go on sliding scales and everything like that. It still can be costly for those who are living like literally paycheck to paycheck and they don't have the room to have like an extra expense, or which was exactly what my situation was. And that's why I love this company, because like literally I've been since July of 2021, like my whole world has like shifted. And so thank you for that. And I think that's an amazing thing. And it's like that's why I always want to like talk about this company, because I'm just like, bro, it's free. Just check it out. If you don't like it, it's fine. You didn't spend it, you didn't lose any money doing it. Because
Right.
that's also a thing. Like people drop a bunch of money on therapists trying to find the right one.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Andre, because even when people have money to get therapy, that doesn't necessarily mean that they found the right therapist right away, because it takes some time to window shop, if you will, right? It's kind of like dating. And that's what I like about Change Your Algorithm, is that you meet all these therapists that you're um, working with for free in these group classes, and then you start to have a better idea of what type of therapist it is that you're looking for.
100%. 100%. I wanted to ask you because you struck a nerve with me when in a good way, not in like a how dare you, but like when you said that you had to ask for help. I know for me and a lot of people, I had a discussion with a buddy and he was just like, it's really hard for men to ask for help. And I went, I think it's just a human thing it's super hard to ask for help. And especially like different cultures and everything like that too. Like you said, Filipino American, very shut off, very like, no, we don't deal with our own stuff. I'm very the same way. My family is just very like my grandmother, World War II, escaped from Poland and was like and moved to Belgium and was part of the underground to, help people escape from France into Belgium. Like it was just like, no, you just deal with it. You don't, emotions aren't real. Like you're not like,
Right.
be happy with what you have type of thing. Um, so what was that? What was the defining moment where you went, I need help? And how scary was it for you to even ask?
Yeah, it was literally 5 years of me feeling this way, drinking more in that way, and just watching myself become worse in my struggles, if you will. I wasn't getting better. And that's I don't really like to say problem, but that was the problem, for me, was that I felt like I was trying to drink my way out of a problem, or the more that I worried, maybe I can figure it out, or maybe I can just, sleep this off. And then when I wake up, it goes away, but it doesn't. And so once I realized that was the algorithm of my life, that wow, this is always going to be this way until I do something about it, I needed to change that. And it really took me literally waking up in a pile of empty wine bottles on location for a shoot, uh, and I was like this has been 10 this has been 5 years for me. I really need to do something. What can I do that is different? What can I do that is, yes, terrifying, but can at least give me the potential of changing my life slash saving my life? And so I remember picking up the phone and calling my dad, and I never speak about emotions with my father. And luckily, he was so receptive, he was so compassionate. And that's really how it all began. And I think that's when I realized that there's actually nothing wrong with asking for help, because I used to be so proud of me and my accomplishments, and I've done this, and I don't need anybody else to help me. If I ask for help, that shows that I'm weak, and I don't want to be a weak person. I don't want to be perceived as weak. And so when I did that, I went, wow, I really need to redefine what strength is and what weakness is. So that was a big learning lesson for me.
Yeah, I've been trying to like battle that because I've always seen asking for help as a weakness. My father growing up was always like, figure it out, young man. Like it's common sense. And it wouldn't even like be about like life. It would just be like, hey, go fix that thing. I don't know how. Can you teach me? No, figure it out. Like it's common sense. And like he was trying to like make me become like more independent, but to default, it becomes like, okay, I can't ask anybody for anything
Right.
because otherwise I'm burdening them when this is something I should probably figure out myself. And I didn't realize until like recently where I had to ask my brother for help with something. And I went, that was so incredibly hard. If this was weak, why would it be this difficult? Like how
Right.
much strength that it has to take just to go, help. I just
Yeah.
need help with this thing.
Right. Or actually showing that part of yourself that is so raw and authentic. Even just giving someone a glimpse of that can be difficult, but it's so necessary, because it's much easier to put a smile on our face and make it seem like everything is okay, but that doesn't heal anything, really. I used to have this misconception that if I make other people think that I'm really happy and I've got it all together, maybe I'm going to be convinced that I'm happy and have it all together. But literally, it was doing the opposite. The more that I did that, the more I realized I was putting all of my energy in people pleasing and trying to make people think that I was okay, but I was just becoming more and more emotionally broken.
Yeah, it's almost like you're isolating yourself in a way where
Yeah.
you're like, I can handle this. It's all good. What, me? No, everything's great. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
And then you're back home with like wine bottles or anyone to devices just sitting in your depression, like not doing anything and not being able to do anything. So thank you for sharing that. Like that's really huge. Um, your relationship like with your parents growing up, was it like, were they that supportive or did you like have struggles with it too?
Yeah, I had, if for anyone that's taken change your algorithm classes, we learned about attachment, but I had inconsistency in terms of the emotional support and receiving the I love yous and the physical affection. So there were moments in my life where I did feel like I was getting validation from my parents, but there were also other moments in my life where I felt like I wasn't good enough,
Mhm.
where I felt like my parents only cared about my performance in school and what I was going to be doing for a living and how I'm going to be making money. But there were very little moments where my emotions were being checked in on. And me, when I was younger, I grew up in a divorce household, and my mother ended up um, getting depression herself. And so me as a kid, I didn't really know what depression was, but I took that as, oh, my mom's not spending time with me. That must mean that there's something wrong with me. And so that became my belief system.
Yeah, no, I hear that wholeheartedly. Just to share my experiences too. My parents didn't know jack squat about like mental health. There was one time in college, I literally got the chair of our department pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, we're gonna go to the psychiatrist's office on campus here. Like, you're not okay, and you're acting like." They could just see me struggling because I was always hiding everything in. My depression was just me going like, I hate my life. Nobody likes me. I'm done. Like always having like those suicidal ideations of like, I should just end it. No one will freaking care. I'm done. And then I came home and I tried to tell my parents about that. And the only thing my dad could ever say was, why?
Mm,
Like, I don't get it. And then like later on in life, when he started diving deeper and deeper into the bottle, and he would take that out on me. So like if I ever said anything like emotional, I'd just be like, okay, I can't say anything to this man because he's not gonna be receptive to it. And then it wasn't until like after he died that I realized some of the demons that he was probably dealing with.
yeah.
And I went, oh, he had like that mentality of like, I'm the head of the household. I'm a man. I'm not allowed to show my emotions. I have to
Right.
shut everything off. And and it made me go, that's why he was diving so much farther into the bottle because he was just trying to numb that pain. And that made me go, oh, okay. And now I get why he would lash out at me. Because I was the one I was home. Like I have a brother, and my brother's super successful. He's a physical therapist. He's married to a physical therapist. He has the wife, the house, the kids, all that stuff. Not me. I was an actor at the time, trying to make it in Hollywood, trying to like build up a resume and all that stuff. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why aren't you your brother? Like, be your brother, be successful like him, and all that stuff. And it's just like, but after, so it took me like a long time after he died and change your algorithm, shout out, to be like, oh, that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Like it all, like I go, okay, that makes it just, it all just kind of fits.
Right. Yeah. And then that's a big thing we talk about, right? At Change Your Algorithm is always replace judgment with compassion, because it's so easy for us to think that there's something wrong with ourselves, and we can take it personally, of course. But once we start to look at why a parent or whatever may be the way that they are, and start to see like what their struggles were like and their hardships, we start to go, oh, that makes sense why they're like that. It doesn't make what they did to us okay,
No,
but,
not at all.
but at least understanding why they're like that, for me anyway, gave me a sense of uh, peace, knowing that, oh, it's not me. I'm not messed up.
That 1000%. It gave me it gave me a sense of relief.
Yes.
At first there was some anger, but just because I was like, dude, why the fuck didn't you say anything? Like, I wish you would have talked to us instead of like just like deteriorating your health to the point where you died from it.
Right.
Uh, but that is, I mean, it is what it is. And now, I mean, like, there's nothing else, there's nothing I can do about it. But it did give me like that release of like, okay, I get it now. It helped me rationalize it,
Yeah.
where I just go, all right, now it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And nothing worse, right, than just like ruminating over something that like you can't seem to like figure out. And such a great word that you used, relief, to go, wow, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I want you said with change your algorithm, we come at things with compassion, not judgment. And I know a lot of people who are going to be watching or listening to this in general battle with the self-compassion.
Yeah.
I'm with a big proponent of like, nah, I'm a giant, everyone else is great. I'm a giant piece of shit. You're all amazing. I'm going to remind you that you're amazing, but I'm going to come home and tell me why no one likes me. No one ever is ever going to like me.
Yeah.
And even like on TikTok now, I'm trying to like put out like these messages of like finding that self-love, self-compassion. And a lot of people go, bullshit, you can't do that. Like, no, I'm not, I'm different. I'm the bad person. And I'm sure that you've dealt with that too, of like the having the bad self-negative thoughts about yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're in this position of loving yourself more. And I just wanted to ask you about that journey of starting to love yourself. Like, how did you start it? And was it instantaneous? Because I always think that people go, like, I used to think this, people go, well, one day you're just supposed to say, I love you, like I love you to yourself, and then it's all fixed and gone. And it's all just wonderful, and your
Yeah.
life gets just so much better. But
Yeah.
I know for me, and hopefully you can tell us for you, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't the case, and it took me a while. I didn't know what compassion was. A few years ago, I honestly thought compassion just meant love yourself, right? But what compassion really means is that you are being there for yourself during a moment of suffering or pain, and us, we are the observer of our thoughts. And while we can be angry, while we can be sad or infuriated, we can still respond with compassion on top of that. What I used to do was I used to be angry at myself. And then when I would think about my anger, I would go, oh God, I'm such a piece of shit. Like, why do I drink so much? Like, why can't I just get my act together? I was judging myself constantly. And a lot of our inner dialogue isn't even coming from us. It may have been how we were raised, how we were talked to, and we start to pick that up as our own language. And so I started to change that language and go, okay, I'm clearly feeling angry. I'm going to start speaking in the language of compassion, which is, whoa, Joel, this is really tough what you're going through. And remember, it's not pity, it's compassion, where you go, I am going through a lot right now. This is pretty tough. I know that I have survived 100% of the bad days that I've already had. Let me actually say nice things about myself, even though I'm really going through it right now. So compassion is also acknowledging all of the good that you have in your life versus the things that we often fixate on that isn't going so well. And me too, a lot of the things that I do is inner child work. So if I'm mad at Joel at the age I'm in right now, I start thinking of like the Joel that's 6. And it makes it a whole lot easier for me to be nicer to myself when I think of me as a 6-year-old. And a lot of our traumas and beliefs come from us when we were children.
Oh, 1000%. I know for me, it's been like, I always used to say, I always tell people I was the king of just hating myself. Like,
Yeah.
and even now, and it's not like those days still don't come. Those days still
Right.
happen, but
Yeah.
it's the way that I handle those days now. Like you were saying, showing yourself more compassion.
Yeah.
And like even just being like, dude, you know who you are. This is just a tough moment that you're going through right now. You're
Yeah.
gonna get through it. It's almost like kind of like hyping myself up, or like me trying to talk to myself how I would try to talk to anybody else. Like I
Yeah.
would never have some, like if you Joel said, man, Andre, I'm just such a giant piece of shit. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, yeah, you are. I'm gonna be like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Like, no, like you have all these great, wonderful qualities. Like you're a wonderful human being. You're helping so many people. You have so much to go through. that
Yeah.
like you have so much good that's going on for you. And I get it. That's like you're maybe not feeling that right now, and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't mean that like it's not going to get better tomorrow or the next day or whenever this wave rides out.
Yeah.
And that's been like the biggest lesson for me of just going like, it's going to get better. You know it is. Yes, this sucks like a motherfucker. uh Even like the suicidal ideations might be coming through, like, what if I left, what if I was gone? No one would care, no one would know. But it's also like, I also try to tell myself like, dude, don't make the permanent decision based on a temporary emotion.
Yeah.
Just get to tomorrow. You never know how you're going to feel. And that's what I try to tell other people when they're like really going through it. I'm like, get to tomorrow,
Yeah.
do whatever you have to do to get to tomorrow, because you'll never know.
You're so spot on. And I don't know why I'm going to use this metaphor because I'm not a lawyer or an attorney, but think about how unfair a courtroom would be if it were just a prosecutor saying, here's why Joel's a piece of shit. He's single, he has negative self-thoughts, he drinks a lot, he does this, he does that, but there's no defense attorney. That's what I used to do. I used to just have a prosecutor that would convince the courtroom and the judge why I'm a piece of shit. And compassion is when you bring a defense attorney in and go, all right, well, I'm going to list out all the things why Joel's amazing, why he deserves the best in life, why he's worthy of all good things. So it at least balances things out. And I started to listen to that defense attorney who would list out all the amazing things that I had to offer versus the prosecutor that was just trying to make me look like a piece of shit. And that's really the power of how we attach ourselves to our thoughts. Like you said, it doesn't mean that these negative thoughts just like go away, but you said that now you know how to respond to it. And it's a practice, right? It's not like
100%.
every swing is a home run, but you're getting stronger. Keep using these metaphors. Now we're in sports apparently, but
It's all good.
But basically it's a practice. We get stronger and stronger, and then we catch it and you go, oh, that's a negative thought. How am I going to respond to it? Versus being instantaneously attached to it and believing it right away, because we don't have to believe it right away.
Yeah, the becoming self-aware of your thoughts really became like really big for me, of like, instead of just like having that thought and just letting it run, it's going like catching it, like you were saying, like in baseball, you just catch it and you're like, hold on, wait. And again, it doesn't happen 100% of the time. Like in baseball, people miss, people don't hit the ball, people don't catch the ball.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets by, and like you'll have your days where you just, at least for me, I have my days where I just sit in it, and then I'll have like a, wait, hold on, what are we, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I remember like a few weeks ago, I was in the gym and I was literally in between sets. I was just sitting there in between sets, and I said, a thought came to my head, like, you're just a giant fucking piece of shit. And I went, where? I started laughing. I was like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, I had nothing like that happen before, or like to like have that chain of thought come out. It just came, and it just lets me know like there's this thing inside me that's like just wants to help, that wants me to be brought down.
Right.
And the fact that I caught it, I went, oh, all right, cool. Like,
that's right.
This thought happened. Let's not talk to ourselves like that right now. You don't need to be talking to yourself like that right now, and just let it go.
Dude, that's huge, man. And I'm so proud of you, because a lot of people don't realize that we're not our thoughts, that we're actually the observer, right? And it's like, I don't say, hi, I'm my thumb. No, my thumb is like a part of me, but I'm not defined by like, I'm just a thumb, And the same applies to our thoughts. Like, just because we have a thought that I'm unworthy doesn't mean that we actually are unworthy. We're just choosing to focus on that thought. But for you to sit in the gym in between sets and go, oh, I just listened to that random thought, but I don't need to actually go along with it. See you later. I'm going to go back to working out now.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's huge.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. I think the next question I want to ask, in terms of going on down like the self-love and self-compassion, and this is just for, I know what my kind of first step was, What was your first step?
Gosh, first step was forgiveness. Truly, in terms of compassion, I had to really forgive myself for how I was treating myself. And also, I had to learn how to forgive other people,
Mhm.
knowing that forgiving other people doesn't mean what they did to me was okay. You know, it really just was a form of forgiveness to me is just releasing that energy and going, okay, I'm not gonna carry any grudges towards this anymore. And it really did become like that sense of relief, you know. But I would say the first step for me in terms of compassion was learning how to forgive.
Not wanting to carry that weight anymore
Yeah,
and just going like, I gotta let this. It's kind of like that. I remember, I don't know if you ever saw this video. There was like this professor, and he was like, how much does this glass of water weigh?
right.
And they're all like, not that much. And it's like, yeah, holding it right now, this is absolutely nothing. But like, if I hold this all day, my arm's gonna hurt and it's gonna get tired. And eventually, I just need to put the glass down. And yeah, that was the thing for forgiveness for me to learn, was just like, it's not okay what they did. And
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that I have to talk to them. It doesn't mean I have to tell them I forgive you. It's it's almost like forgiving yourself for, because I know a lot of people like blame themselves, like, I let this happen. It's
mm,
like, that's not for me. It's just like, it's something that happened. It's not your fault that it happened, because a lot of people need to give themselves compassion of, I didn't know.
right.
You can't blame yourself for something you didn't know. And it's almost like you got to forgive yourself for that, to forgive like that thing. It's not forgiving that person. It's almost like letting yourself just let it go and be like, I didn't know. I had no idea. This is just something that happened. It sucks that it happened.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't know. Like, I'm
it's
that was me coming up on the fly with that,
no,
like
it's
thinking
so
that through.
true. And if we wanted to do better, we would have done better, but we did the best that we could with the knowledge and wisdom that we had at the time, you know. And that's one of the four agreements, right? Is always do your best. No one wakes up in the morning and says, what trauma am I going to pick up today, or what can I do today that's going to make my life harder for the rest of my life? And that's what forgiveness is you look back and you go, wow, if I wanted to have done better, I would have. You know, it is actually impossible for me to have, you know what I mean? And you start to see things differently, you shift your perspective, and then you learn from that, you know. And that regret all of a sudden has transformed into something that will actually strengthen you. And that's honestly like what empowerment is to me, is when you start to be grateful for the things that you used to be ashamed of. I used to be so ashamed of my traumas, depression, addiction, and now I'm really grateful for it because it has taught me so much. And I wouldn't have started Change Our Algorithm if I didn't face those things head on, if I didn't forgive myself the way that I have, if I didn't practice compassion every day. It's tough, but it's a practice. And you know that change doesn't live in easy,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah. For me, my first step was, I tried saying something positive about myself in the mirror,
Mm,
and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I felt so uncomfortable. I hated it. And I was like, okay, let's rework this and see if we can find a different way to do this. And this is before like I joined Change Your Algorithm. This is just me going like, realizing I've been treating myself really poorly. I still haven't, even though it's been a few years, I still haven't processed the death of my mom and how traumatic that was for me, and how like I felt like I failed her. And so I just wrote down things that I knew about myself that I liked on like a whiteboard. And then using my acting background, I was like, I'm going to read these out. And if I don't believe it, I'm going to act like I do. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to perform like I am believing me, like, no, you are strong, you are kind.
right.
And all the, you have a good heart, and like all these things. And that was like, okay. And I started doing that daily, just reading those same ones over and over and over again.
Yeah,
And then even now, like I still have it. I have it on a little whiteboard on my refrigerator. And every time like I fill up my water bottle, I just sometimes I'll just go, all right, just let's just read these out. And I think for a lot of people who want to start loving themselves more, it's that's like a really hard step, but I think it's just like that's the smallest thing. And I think I'm sure this happened for you too. It's just a bunch of little baby steps.
Yes.
It's not these giant leaps of like, one
Yeah.
day I did this. It's like, say, I'll use the gym for me. I can deadlift 655 pounds.
Jesus.
I,
Wow.
but I didn't do that day one.
Right.
I didn't, I used to weigh over like 400 pounds. I didn't like go into the gym and be like, day one, I do cardio, and then next day I'm shredded with abs. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a progress and like a practice that just takes that time and patience to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what a beautiful way to put it is, piling on the weights until eventually you get to 600-pound deadlift. But truthfully, it's like you have to start small, right? And the subconscious isn't going to believe anything that it doesn't feel. That's why a lot of people that say, I love myself, it doesn't work for them because deep down, subconsciously, they don't love themselves. But when you start small, such as, I like the way I smile, right? Or I'm a good friend. And you start small with that and you let that build up and build up like weights. And then eventually your subconscious goes, wow, I'm actually like a really good person. And like, kind of love this person that has these gazillion things that through time I've listed out and started believing, and that's how self-love starts. I think a lot of people just want to jump straight to falling in love with themselves immediately, but no, it's going to take those tiny little bits of pieces of weights that you're going to need to apply into your daily life and practice it like working out consistently.
100%. It's almost like, you know, there's the instant gratification that everyone's getting so used to now. Like you can get almost anything in the snap of a finger, and so like people want to be like, I want to love myself now. We need to do this now. And but it's almost like, with like any relationship, every relationship takes effort, right? When the relationship stops getting effort, let's say like two people are in love, but one person stops putting in the effort, well, that relationship starts to get really difficult and really hard. But the relationship with yourself is the longest relationship that we're all going to ever be in, right? And that relationship always takes effort.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, so it's just like, I know for me, sometimes I get really frustrated because I hear people like talk crap about themselves, and I'm like, no, you're not allowed to do that. I do that, not you. Like, just stop it. I'm trying
Yeah.
to help. Just let me help you.
Yeah. Right. It's so true. And how we speak to others is really how we should be speaking to ourselves first and foremost. I used to not understand that whole like love yourself first before you love other people, because for me, like you, it's so much easier to just love other people,
Yeah.
but then my own shit would surface as I was like loving that person in a relationship, and now I'm going through insecurities and it's now affecting the relationships, and now I go, wow, it really is so important for me to continue to love myself first and foremost before anybody else.
Well, I mean, if we think about it, it's, and you literally just made me have like an aha moment in my own like love life, or like things that I'm struggling with. Like one of the biggest fears that I have is someone telling me that they love and care about me and I don't believe them.
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking about it, that kind of can stem from like, if I don't, how can I expect someone else to love me and care about me if I don't?
Yeah. Right.
Like, how can I expect to feel the love from someone else when I can't even feel the love from myself first?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where like this podcast kind of stems from, is me trying to learn to like be my authentic self, just put myself out there into this world, because I don't know if you did this, but for me, with the not feeling of like I belong, or
Yeah.
that I'm good enough or anything like that, I kept trying to be who I thought other people wanted me to be,
Oh
or
gosh.
do things that I thought that would make other people proud. Like, I was trying to pursue an acting career because I was like, oh, I'm good at this. I have fun doing this. All right, cool. And then I was like, well, I'm into fitness. I'll be a personal trainer. My dad will think that would be cool. Like that's something he can be proud of.
Right.
And then when after he died and I was recovering from the surgery that I had, I realized how much I hated it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'll go work at Disneyland. My dad would think this would be like the cool. I was still trying to do things for him.
Sure.
And then like any kind of relationship that I would be in, it would be like, I saw a meme on this today where like one person goes, oh my God, we have so much in common. And then like me over here is like, yeah, I'm morphing my personality to go with, yeah, you like country music. I am obsessed with it's so great, even though like I don't listen to country music
Yeah.
whatsoever. But I'm like, if that's gonna get you to like me, I'm gonna roll with it. And then like those relationships end up failing down the road because like the real me starts going like, hey, like you're really not into this. And then like then it turns into like, you used to be like this. Why
Yeah.
aren't you like this anymore? And it's like, well, it's because I was never was that in the first place.
Yeah.
Or like in terms of like having the same likes, like the same like same TV shows or whatever. But like my
Yeah.
personality could be like, yeah, I'm into dad jokes. I'm into making puns like left, right, and center. I'm a very kind person. I'm very loyal. I'll be supportive in all those things. But like communication was always like, I can't do that. I can't tell you my feelings. I can't be that open. Then you'll see the real me. Then you won't like me anymore. And we can't have that.
Right. That's exactly right. And, I love everything that you're saying because now you're talking about people pleasing, right? Which is something that lots of people do where we go, well, I like country music, or I'm going to do the things that like someone else is going to be happy about or whatnot. But we start forgetting about what our own values are, and I think our values is something that is so important for people to write down. Like, what are my values? Like, what actually makes me happy? Versus what can I do and use every ounce of my energy to make everyone else happy,
Yeah, yeah,
because now you start to focus on yourself, and that's not selfish, it's necessary. You focus on yourself, you understand what your values are, and then you build your life from that.
yeah. This is where like I boundaries are starting to become like a thing for me. Like it's like let's say like on TikTok, I went like a good 3 month period where I was going live every single night for like 2 to 3 hours at a time because like I'm like, okay, I got to build this up, I got to build this following and all that stuff. And then two, everybody was liking seeing me and interacting with me for all that time. But what they all didn't know or didn't realize is how draining that would
Yeah.
get for me. That because that's a lot of energy to put out, especially on top of all the other things that like again creating content, working full time, going to the gym every single
Yeah.
day. Like it would just take its toll. And so now I'm like, if I'm in the headspace for it, if I have the energy for it, I'll do it.
That's
But
right.
outside of that, because like even then, like, you know, on my TikTok, it's a lot of I talk a lot about my mental health. I try to be as raw as possible or
Yeah.
be really supportive. And then I'll get people coming in and they'll just trauma dump. And
Yeah.
I'll be like, I'm going through a rough time. Help me. And of course I'm going to. Like I
Yeah.
don't want anybody to suffer. I don't want anyone to not feel like they're heard. But it can take I had a discussion with a friend where they were like, hey, can we talk about this thing? And I went, I want to. I really do. I'm not in the head. I'm in a really bad mental headspace right now. I'm struggling. Like this was like a few days ago. I was like, I'm this voice that's in my head is beating the shit out of me. I had like a PTSD flashback. It drained me. I was like, I can't right now, but that doesn't mean that I won't later. You can
Right.
still like message me or whatever. I'm warning you, it just might take me a couple days to get back to you. And
Right.
then I felt incredibly guilty because they went, oh, never mind. I'm not gonna because they went their walls went up of like, oh, I don't want to be a burden to this person.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
like, no, it's not that. It's just I need to be in the good enough headspace to be able to respond to this. And so I can give you like so I can fully hear you and fully be present with you. And whatever advice that you want me to give, I can, and I can give you like the best version of it instead of me like, hold on, what? Okay, let me scramble. I need to like descramble my brain a little bit first. You know what I mean? And then like me giving some like shoddy piece of advice where they're like, no, that's stupid. Why would I ever want to do that? Like, you didn't hear me at all.
Right. No, it's so true. And especially with someone that has so many followers like yourself, those boundaries are really important. It doesn't mean that you don't care for people. It just means that you also care for yourself and you have to take care of yourself. With Change Your Algorithm, I had to learn very quickly that I can be there for everybody and text message everyone and, really hear them out. Then it started to affect my mental health as well. And so I had to create like a community guideline where it says that our services are there in our classes, when we offer classes, and feel free to contact all of our members, but our services are really focused in those classes. Otherwise, it starts to become a 24/7 program, right? And while that isn't a great idea, there comes a moment where, as volunteers, like, we also have to take care of ourselves and do the things that we love so that we can show up for the community, And I think that's a big thing about understanding the importance of boundaries, is that when you say no to someone, you're actually saying yes to yourself, as we learn in Change Algorithm classes.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you brought it back to CYA, because I do want to ask you a couple more questions. I don't know how much time you have to be on here, and I don't want to take up all of it
No, you're all
because
good.
you're a very important man, and I know you have very
Oh,
important things
jeez.
to do. You are. Stop. Hey, take the compliment. Take the compliment. Your whole like self-deprecating humor like came out like, no, you shut up. You stop it right now. Called you out right there. But when CYA first started, what did it look like? Because like right now, like it's over a year old now, which is amazing that it's gone this long, and I know it's grown quite a bit. What was like day one look like?
Oh my gosh. Day one, there was about like 4 people that showed up in the class, including me and the therapist. So half of the class was me and the therapist. And it was online. And I had that doubt in my mind. I remember it clearly. It goes, oh my gosh, this is going to bomb. What a terrible idea. And luckily, one of the members that showed up is Kiki, who is now one of our facilitators slash director of community engagement. And she kept showing up for these tiny little classes with 4 people, and then eventually became 5 people. I remember seeing Kiki there, and I told myself, well, if this is meaningful for her, then I wonder who else this will be meaningful for. And so I just kind of put my energy towards faith over fear. And I just
Mhm.
wanted to be consistent about it. And so I kept doing classes, and then 4 people turned into 5, into 6, into 10, into 20. And then, we have our Instagram now and our Facebook and Meetup, and people started to show up. And one of the best parts is that therapists started to reach out, and they're like, hey, I want to volunteer for this. I really want to be of service. And these are really busy therapists that aren't even looking for clients. They literally just wanted an outlet to volunteer an hour a week or so in a room where they can be talking to more than just one person. Um, so yeah, that's how it started. It started with 4 people.
Yeah, I was literally just gonna ask you. I was like, because I remember I'll see like all these classes, and I'm like, dude, these are so many. Joel, how many therapists have you gone through to like know all these different therapists? I was like,
Yeah.
dang, this is like impressive. And then not even that, but like you've taken this globally now.
Yeah. So there's a CYA in Malaysia, UK, Indonesia, Philippines, Canada. We're doing one in New Zealand. And I'm really, really proud of the people that have approached me, because I never want to force volunteer work upon anybody. But the people that approached me said, hey, I want to be able to do this in my country. And it's really cool to see that happen, because it's a program that does not charge any money at all. And so I make that very clear. And for people to see people do this out of the kindness of their own hearts is really awesome, because it reminds you that there is good in the world. Because if you watch enough news and television, you're like, oh my gosh, the world's falling apart. But to be a part of this community, just, there's silver linings to everything.
No, 100%. And I know like for me, this community has been, has literally been everything for me. It's taught me that like I'm not alone. And this
Yeah.
is kind of why I do the TikToks that I do. I'm doing this kind of a podcast in hopes that I can share with whatever's going on with me, and it gives people the hope or the knowledge that they know that, oh, I'm not alone. And maybe like oh, if he's going through this and he's getting through it, I can too, or anything like that. It's just such a beautiful community. And I think it's so amazing that you have all these volunteers and everyone keeps showing up, and I will keep shouting at it from like the mountaintops of like, it's fucking free. Like, just check this out. Like, it can help. And I know a lot of people are suffering, and like you're like opening this up into like countries that, a lot of people go like, oh, you have universal health care. Well, what I've been learning with universal health care is mental health is not included
Right.
in that. It still costs money. And it's
Right.
I mean, like, I'm sure there's like some, or like, oh, well, we have like a low copay or whatever. I'm like, it's still, it could be really difficult for people, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, to pay.
Yeah.
And it's like, this way they get to kind of figure out the kind of therapy they want to go down. They get access to a therapist and learn some tools that can help them. And then maybe one day they can get into like a more financial stable place where they can do the one-on-one talk therapies or like the specific therapies that they want to go into.
That's right. And all it is knowledge and coping skills. And that stuff should not ever have to be charged ever. If one person joins a class and realizes that they're not their thoughts, that they're actually the observer of their thoughts, and that saves their life, like, that's it. That's like the goal of the program, is to literally provide free mental health knowledge, free coping skills, and then people can do whatever they want with that. And you've joined the classes where I say, like, it's great that people have shown up and all, but the real work is going to happen when you hit leave meeting. The real work is going to happen when that thought arises, and now you have to choose how to respond to that. And that's really how you change your life.
Yeah, it's kind of like you go see a it's kind of like, say you go see a personal trainer at the gym. I don't know why this is coming to my mind right now, but why not? And it's like, you do the work for that hour and you feel great after that hour, but if you're not outside of the gym doing the work to eat right and
Right.
like stretch and recover, like you just go out and like, okay, well, I'm gonna go down like 30 burgers right now,
Right.
and like, go drink like 100 beers or whatever. That's a way over exaggeration right there. But like, what I mean? Like, you're like, if you're not putting the work outside of it, you're never like, well, why? Then you come back to your trainer and you're like, well, why am I not losing any weight?
Yeah, right, right,
Why
right.
am I not feeling healthier? Why am I not getting stronger? Why am I not doing this, that, or the other? And it's like, well,
That's
what are you
right.
doing out? For me, when I was a personal trainer, I would get that from this is like a weird tie-in, because like this is all kind of clicking in my head right now. When I was a personal trainer, the biggest thing was they'd be like, why am I not losing weight? Like, okay, well, what are you doing outside of seeing me? Are you even coming into the gym outside of seeing me? Or what are you eating like? What are you doing that? And they're like, oh, well, I went out to dinner with some friends and I had this, or like, oh, we had like a little get together at that, or we had like pasta, or like this huge pasta dish last night or something like that. And I'm like, okay, and this is my fault. Why? Like, you're not losing your weight. This is my fault. Why?
Right,
Like,
right.
like if you're not, and if I tell them like, well, start eating like these kinds of foods and whatnot, and then they don't do it, and
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I've given you the tools, I've
right.
given you everything that I can, I've given you my knowledge to help you. If you don't use it, nothing's going to change. And I think that comes from the where people, the struggle between I should and I want.
Yes.
Like when I was growing up, I was always the fat kid going to every single doctor's office. They're like, you're fat, right? Like, you should lose weight, right? And it's like, yeah, I know I should lose weight. And I started diets and exercising because I should do it. But it wasn't until that moment of like my deepest depression where I went, dude, you either need to do something about this or just fucking kill yourself.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, I'm gonna do something about it. And it's because I want to. And I set a goal that I'm gonna lose 100 pounds. And everyone went,
Wow.
sure you are, bro. Like, good luck with that. And for me, I just went, all right, motherfucker, watch. It's
Yeah,
because I want it. There's a difference between the want and the should, or like, I should do this versus I want to do this.
that's right. That's exactly right.
And that's
And
why I always, whenever tell people like, I need like when people like want to ask for help on something, like especially like to get better, or like I have a like, or they go like, I have a friend, they're going through this, and I want to tell them, I want to help them, I want to do this, and I have to go, do they want it?
Yeah.
Do they want it? Because if they don't, you can suggest all you want, but until they have like that click in their head, like I want to get better, I want to fix this,
Right.
there's a higher probability of failure.
Right. It's so true. And, you know, there's different levels of change, and it really depends like what level that person is, you know, because thinking it is one thing, but actually wanting it, like that's what's going to fuel you, right? Like when I got to that point of being at my rock bottom, like I wanted to change so badly that my level of want just like really increased, and that's what fueled me, you know. And I hope people realize that, because we're never going to force any lessons and tips and coping tools upon anyone, because it really depends on where they're at in life, you know.
And I also think like with people who do show up with in like like say like the change your algorithm classes, the beautiful thing about that community is that we're all there for the same goal
Right.
of we want to get better.
Yeah.
Like I'm dealing with something, I need to try something. And I know for me, it was like I was in search of therapy. And like I was going through like a service that gives like the sliding scales with therapists and everything like that. I got really discouraged because the therapist I did reach out to didn't reach out back. They
Yeah.
didn't respond. And then I went, oh, okay. Like I got really discouraged. And then again, when Andres came and was like, dude, check this out. It was just kind of like that, like the universe was aligning. This is what I needed. And I was like, okay, I'll definitely check it out. And it was like that day one of boom, there it is.
Right.
And I just went, okay, I need to come back. I feel so much better. I need to come back. And there, I had like, I remember it was with Dr. Wendy,
Yeah.
who's freaking amazing. I love her so much. Um, and I just like through that whole class, I just kept going like, like all these like aha, like click moments. And I went, all right, cool. And I always think like it's so huge when people go, I want to change. And then it's like, okay, you do, check this out.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things about just mental health journeys in general, is like those moments of going, "Oh my God, there's nothing wrong with me." Like what she just said, that just proves there's nothing wrong with me, you know? And I remember having so much of that, and you were having that, and I want other people to experience that as well, because there's actually nothing wrong with us. You know, like we're just basically trying to like become better, but for most of us, we just need a little bit of help, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Not at all. Um, so before we wrap up here, I'm wanting to start this new thing at the end of every podcast where we count our victory for the day, at least one.
Ooh, wow.
So because I know for me, that was one of the biggest things I have learned from Change Your Algorithm is kind of giving yourself credit no matter how menial the task is. Like it could be like for anybody listening to this, it can be I woke up today.
Yeah.
I drank some water.
Right.
I got out of bed. Like for me, my biggest victory today is having this conversation with you because I never in a million years I was afraid to ask you because I'm like, he's such a busy man. I don't want to put this on him. And he's been so generous with his time with me every time I've talked with him. And like, I don't want to do this. But but you came into me, you're like, hey, when's your podcast coming out? I
Yeah.
went, oh, I'm working on it. Fuck it. You want to come on? You just
I'm
went,
like,
yeah. And
yeah.
I was like, oh shit. All right, cool.
Sunday. Perfect.
We'll figure it out. I was like, okay, busy man, busy man, busy man. Let's figure. I could squeeze it in here. Okay, cool. We'll do it. But for you, Joel, today, what was your biggest victory, or what's a victory? Not biggest. What's a victory for you?
You know, I would say that a victory that I had for myself was that yesterday I actually had negative self-talk at the gym, and I beat myself up. And today I reminded myself that I had negative self-talk, and I said that today I am going to speak to myself kindly. And that changed everything in today's workout. And so it's exactly like what you've done, where you caught a pattern, you know, and then you said, today I'm going to change that. And that to me is a huge victory.
That is awesome. But I do want to say, Joel, you had negative self-talk at the gym. Have you seen
Yeah,
how beastly you are, for my friend?
dude.
Like,
And,
holy
and that's what
crap.
I want people to know is that, I'll still have negative thoughts and limiting beliefs because it is not something that just goes away. We're human beings. It's a part of our survival skills to have fight, flight, freeze, and worry. It's natural. But now I know how to actually respond to it.
Oh no, actually, you literally just brought up one last question that I have for you, because I know a lot of people look at you now and see how far you've come in your journey and how much healthier you are, especially mentally. Do you ever, and I know people look at me this way, and I'm like, bro, I'm not even a year in on my mental health journey. Like, let's calm it down. But do you ever get like people think that you have everything figured out and they don't ever realize that you do have those days?
100%, all the time. And that's why I'm always saying, like, I'm an open book. I'll talk about whatever issues I go through currently. Because in the beginning, when I first started changing algorithm, there was that thought that I had, which was, ooh, I can't show anyone that I'm going through it because I have to seem like I'm all together. I'm like, wait, that's not right. It's actually the opposite. It's literally to be as vulnerable as possible with myself and other people so people can actually see me as an example. And so, no, when people say, like, but you have it all together, I go, like, what does all together really mean? Because when I had it all together back then on paper and on successes and whatnot, I was going through suicidal ideations. Like, right now, I have it all together because I acknowledge the negative thoughts. I have it all together because I'm actually the observer of my thoughts and feelings. I don't define myself by my traumas and whatnot. That to me is what having all together means.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so
Thank you,
much for coming
brother.
on here, dude. Seriously, I cannot appreciate this enough. I have like 100 other million questions I could probably ask you, but maybe I'll have to have you come back on
The
and
next
we could,
episode, anything for you, brother.
dude, I seriously appreciate you. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate you all so much. Be kind to yourselves. Be good. Have a wonderful day.